Hey guys, Tyler here, hope everybody's doing well. I just want to make a quick update video just to talk about some of the stuff that's happened this year, as I did last year, so let's get straight into it. So this year has been pretty fantastic. Second year has been really good at uni so far. Obviously the work has gotten a lot harder academically, but I've been working a lot harder to keep up with that. In terms of grades, I've not been doing as well, but it doesn't bother me too much. Moved into a new house slightly further away from campus with some wonderful new flatmates who I've gotten on with really well. So that's been fantastic. This semester at uni has been fantastic. I've got to thank everybody who's helped me get through it, because it has definitely been a lot harder. There's definitely been a lot more to get through, because I've not just been actually studying at the uni, I actually work at the uni, as I've said in my summer update video. I've been working in the uni kitchens, so that's been a lot harder as well, but it's still been really enjoyable to do. So I'm really glad. I'm really pleased with how things have gone this year. So I've got to thank everybody for helping me get through it. This year, in terms of music this year has actually been really good. Let's take a look at the tracks that I've made this year. So this year, we started off the year by making some EDM using sounds from a ruler, which was certainly interesting. And then came another Rush remix by Epic Hider. That was pretty good. And then we made some more music using goat sounds and sounds from an iPhone. And then we stopped doing music from random shit and started actually making tunes. So we made I Feel Trendy, which was the first track of 2019, as it turns out. And then came the remastered version of New Generations, In My Mind remix, the piano cover of Rise Again, the KSI remix, which I didn't think was as good as it could have been, Elevation, Glass, the video about various scrapped projects, Bloodhound, Influx 2, the beatboxing meme remix thing, that was a bit weird, and then of course the Absolute EP, which is the first EP I've ever released, so that was released this year, and that consists of Vodka Android, Echelon, I Feel Ultra and Junkyard. Out of all of those, I thought Vodka Android was probably the best, and then there was an EDM radio mix which was played on BBC Radio Essex, which I'll get to in a minute. Then there was Hidden Hearing, the orchestral edition of Bloodhound, Bad Guy, the Bad Guy remix, Sriracha, the Senorita remix, Sickness, Rush Gold edition, and then we made some EDM using a water bottle, which is pretty enjoyable actually. And we mustn't forget about the music that we made in the first semester, so that includes Ghost God, Nucleophilic, the Azazel VIP mix, Crisis, the Sriracha drum and bass edit, Future Smash, He Won't Talk, Scrap Freak, and the new edition of Sickness by VP the Mac, which I thought was pretty decent. So yeah, that's actually all of the stuff that we released onto YouTube. Not all of this was released onto Spotify and Apple Music, so it wasn't released officially, but that's okay. Because I thought all of this stuff was actually really good. So this year on Spotify we had 464 streams, and that was 20 hours worth of streams in 25 different countries with 64 different listeners. So there you go. We also had some tracks played on the radio this year, specifically BBC Radio Essex and BBC Radio Suffolk, and those tracks included I Feel Trendy, Vodka Android, Junkyard, and Rush Gold Edition, which was the most recent one. But at one point on BBC Radio Essex, we also had 15 minutes reserved purely to play one of my mixes, so that was played as well, which was pretty fantastic. And of course, I think one of the best things that happened this year in terms of music, I was interviewed on BBC Radio Essex. What was it? It was like a show on Wednesday where they introduced new artists. I can't remember what it was called, but I had to travel down from Norwich to Chelmsford for that. It was a 20-minute interview, and then it basically lasted the whole day travelling, but the interview was so short, so it was still worth it though, and I've got that recording permanently now, so I was so happy when that happened. But that was back whilst I was still in first year, so it feels like that was ages ago, but in reality it wasn't. Rush Gold Edition was played on episode 86 of the Pretty Gritty podcast, which you can find on Spotify. I will leave a link to it in the description. Unfortunately, they said I was from the US. I'm not from the US, I'm actually from the UK, if you couldn't already tell. This year, as I said before in the summer update video, I released a lot of stuff into the Spinning Records talent pool because it very briefly gets a front row seat and it gets a lot of exposure. But you'll find that as you upload your stuff, literally 10 seconds later, somebody is going to overtake you because people upload to that platform so consistently. It's very, very saturated. Not as saturated as, say, YouTube, but but it is very, very hard to get your stuff exposed properly. To get your stuff out there on the talent pool, to actually climb the talent pool, people need to vote for your tracks, and whoever gets the most votes within a week will win, essentially. But I'm not sure what it is they win. I imagine they get the company's attention, and they'll probably contact them privately or something like that. I'm not sure how it works. You're very welcome to comment and inform me. But basically, out of all the tracks that I uploaded onto the talent pool, Azazel, the VIP mix of Azazel, did the best. It got to position 138, which doesn't sound very good. That sounds like a really high number, but when you consider the scope of the competition, that's actually not bad, because as I said, it's a very saturated platform. People are constantly uploading it. It's very unlikely that people will have a chance to listen to your stuff. So when you upload your stuff, you've got to make sure that it is the very best, right? So clearly people must have liked it. I think they did. I think it was it's just weird because I didn't think Azazel, the VIP mix, was that good. Out of all the tracks that I've done this year, I feel like my favourite track would have been Sriracha, and that did pretty well. It didn't do as well, but I would have thought that would have done better. But apparently no, people liked the VIP mix better. Out of all my favourite tracks, as I said, Sriracha's my favourite. But I've also really enjoyed doing Ghost God, and so much so that I redid it. I did an October edition, which I uploaded onto Wave. But unfortunately, something bad's happened to Wave, which I'm going to mention in a minute. So that was really enjoyable. And I also, what was the other track I really enjoyed? Oh, Crisis, which I will get to as well. In terms of tracks this year, as I've said before, we released a lot of stuff this year. In total this year, we've released 34 tracks. Not officially, so when I say released, I mean just uploaded to YouTube, essentially. So we did 34 tracks. We made 34 tracks at some point, so there you go. But towards the end of the year, in the second semester, we had some collaborations. So we first collaborated with Black Winter, with Crisis, which I'm not going to lie, I think is probably one of my favourite tracks so far, excluding Sriracha and Ghost God. I think it's probably my favourite collab track, let's go with that. Black Winter's a fantastic EDM artist. The way I got in contact with him was basically, as I've said before, I'm part of the Superwearer community. So what that means is there's a common Discord server, and what people do is they release their tracks and they share their tracks through the various text channels in the server, and there's also a text channel which lets you post like your work in progress, essentially your scraps, right? And I was looking through there, just looking through different people's tracks because I like to hear other people's work. I heard his work and I was absolutely blown away. I thought it was fantastic. I thought, you know what, I got to collab with this guy because he was absolutely amazing. I'm going to leave some of his links in the description along with all the other artists I'm going to mention. But yeah, I thought that was fantastic. So the next collab track that I did was with somebody called Flo. Now you probably won't recognise that name because it doesn't exist on the channel anywhere else. But Flo is actually somebody that I've collabed with before because he used to go by the name Rebel Scum. We did a track together before called Two Player, which I thought was okay, could have been a little bit better. And then later on we did a hip hop track together called Empathy, where I basically did all of the music underneath, you know, so all the instrumental. I did vocals during the chorus. He did vocals during the chorus as well, but mainly he did the rapping during the verses. Now personally I thought that track could have been a lot better, but I kept listening to it during the second semester and I thought to myself, you know what, the actual like tune to this track, you know, the melody and the harmony, I thought it was just really, really solid, like really good. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to get him to do another track with me at some point. So I spoke to him again about doing another track. But this time I didn't want him rapping or singing like what we did before, because I'd listened to a lot of lo-fi stuff in the past, and I realised with lo-fi stuff, that's what I wanted to do for the next track. I wanted to do something very relaxed, very calm, very lo-fi, rather than like some aggressive hip-hop like Sickness was. And I thought, you know what, instead of singing and rapping, let's just talk. Let's do what people do in lo-fi tracks, where they don't sing and they don't rap, they just talk, because people just take samples of people saying random things in lo-fi tracks. Or they'll do the recordings themselves, they'll just talk, they'll just say random things, right? That's a large chunk of lo-fi, it's just people talking and putting some samples underneath it, right? I've had a lot of people say that lo-fi is very lazy, but I don't really like to think of it like that. I think lo-fi is a decent genre, and it's really nice to listen to if you want to chill out. So I thought, you know what, let's do something like that. So we did a bit of call and response, so you've got me talking, and then you've got him responding. It's just us talking, but honestly, I thought it was really enjoyable to listen to and really enjoyable to do, so that was great. And then the only other collab track that we did, or that I did, was a new version of Sickness. So basically I was listening to the instrumental version of Sickness, and I thought, you know what, this probably could sound a lot better if somebody could actually rap over this, right? So I did a call out on Twitter, looking for somebody to rap over one of my tracks. I didn't specify what track it was, I just said one of my tracks. And then the first person to get in contact with me was somebody called VP the Mac, who, as it turns out, is a really good rapper, because we got in contact for a little bit, we talked in the DMs, we basically said, yeah, let's do this. I sent him the vocals, and eventually he sent them back to me. I put the track together, and you know what? I think it sounds absolutely fantastic. In terms of which track I like better, I'm not going to take the ego side and say my one was better, because I really did enjoy my one, but in reality, I really, really enjoyed his cover of Sickness. I think it just works so well, so I was so pleased with that. I've stopped using Amuse, and I've actually moved my distribution to DistroKid, which is what a lot of people who are very similar to me do. And the reason for that is because DistroKid actually released to a lot more platforms and a lot more services for a decent price. Originally, before I used to release my stuff with Amuse, I actually released Rush under what is it called? A distribution service. I released Rush under a distribution service called TuneCore. But the thing is with TuneCore, the more tracks and stuff you upload, the more money you have to pay, which was not really a good deal if you weren't getting a lot of money, which is the case for me. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to stop doing that. So I took Rush down from TuneCore, started releasing my stuff through Muse because they were completely free. However, the catch of that was that they didn't really release to that many platforms. So eventually I thought, you know what I'm going to do, I'm going to move over to DistroKid, because it's £10 or something like £10 every year, right? But that's the thing, it's a static amount. You don't have to pay any more or any less depending on how many tracks you have, which means essentially if you have more tracks uploaded, the more you have, you're getting more bang for your buck. So that's what I thought. So I thought, let's move over to DistroKid, because they release to far more services, they're a lot more professional, and I just generally prefer them. So that basically covers most of what's happened in terms of music this year. In terms of YouTube, we hit 30,000 channel views, which was pretty cool. Not the biggest milestone in the world, but I thought it was pretty decent. Unfortunately, something that was quite disappointing that happened this year was Wave, the platform, closed down, which was basically a platform that I treated as a second channel. It's very similar to YouTube, but it was very, very undersaturated. It was very small. I had a lot of my stuff reach the trending page, but the weird thing with the trending page was that the stuff on that page was a weird mixture between 5 views and like 5,000 views. It was very strange, and you could tell there wasn't really a lot of people using that platform. So I kind of treated it, as I said, like a second channel, because it meant I could, if there was something I didn't want to upload onto YouTube due to confidence problems, I could just put it on WAV and not have to worry about the consequences, essentially. So that's what I ended up doing. It was really enjoyable, and I was very disappointed to see it shut down, because I do like uploading stuff on there and treating it like a second channel. But it doesn't matter, it was enjoyable for the time it was up, since I think WAV started back in 2017. They closed literally yesterday, so today's Monday, and they literally closed yesterday, which was a bit of a shame. They shut down all of their servers, so that was good while it lasted, but I'm gonna miss that, to be honest. And probably the biggest thing that's happened this year, as I said, this year I've released 34 tracks, but in total we've actually released 107 tracks, which means there was a specific milestone that we reached. 100 tracks, ladies and gentlemen. To commemorate myself making 100 tracks, I actually released a piece of artwork at some point, which is kind of all the thumbnails and cover arts of all the tracks that I made combined into one photo. The 100th track, of course, was Nucleophilic, which is basically like a redone version of Electrophilic, which is the first track that I considered to be one of my real electronic tracks. So yeah, I thought that was a lot better than the original, but it really just goes to show, like, I'm pretty dedicated with this sort of thing. I can't believe I've done that many tracks. Like, not even a lot of professional artists have released that many tracks. But the thing is, a lot of tracks that I've released are not really that good. They're not properly, like, professional tracks. I imagine some people might consider them so, might, listen to them like any other track. But the thing is, I think a lot of work needs to be done. So that's why I'm going to carry on. 100 tracks isn't a place to stop. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep pushing out, making some more tracks. Hopefully, we've got some new and interesting remixes and collaborations coming soon. but we will see. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thanks everybody for everything that you've provided me this year. All of the support has been so good. I'm just going to shout out a few people real quick. Obviously VP the Mac, Flo aka Rebel Scum, Black Winter, and basically everybody who's supported me. So who else? I don't really have anybody written down right now, so I'm kind of just thinking off the top of my head. Deco the Dragon, aka Deco, aka Deco Dot. You've got a lot of aliases. I know you personally. Tom, I don't care. But yeah, no, you've provided me with a lot of support this year, so thank you very much. A lot of my student friends, my housemates, thank you very much for this year, for checking out my music. It means so much to me when you guys support my music. It literally, like, I can't describe how like much I need this support for people to listen to my stuff, because essentially that is how you grow. You need people to support you, no matter how close they are to you, no matter how well they know you, even if it's just random people from the internet or if it's your closest friends. You need people to, you know, support you and like kind of push you forward with your content. Otherwise you're never really going to do what you want to do. So thanks everybody again for this year. You've all been fantastic, and I will see you next year. Bye.